I would like to start by reiterating what the previous presidencies have been recalling in this House. Rule of law and fundamental rights are part of our common European values and are intimately connected. It is the shared responsibility of all EU institutions and member states alike to protect and promote them within and beyond our borders. I can assure this House that rule of law and fundamental rights are a priority of the Polish presidency. We see the rule of law as a signpost and a pillar of stability and mutual trust in the Union. Our goal is to uphold the rule of law, strengthening the resilience of democracy and promote commitment to EU values. Respect for the fundamental rights and freedoms on which the EU is based is inseparable from a sense of security, which is the Polish presidency leitmotif. I also believe that the Union has the necessary tools and procedures in place to protect its values, and it's crucial that we all, EU institutions and member states alike, apply them constructively and in a spirit of open dialogue with the member states concerned. As regards today's debate, I take note of the recent developments which led this House to hold this debate. The Council remains seized of the matter. Under the ongoing Article 7 Treaty of the European Union procedure, we continue to address the freedom of assembly, the independence of media, the situation of civil society in Hungary, and the many other issues that raise concerns. Let me update you on the ongoing work within the Council in this regard. The rule of law in Hungary will be addressed twice at the General Affairs Council during Polish presidency. On 28 January, Hungary took part in a country-specific discussion at the General Affairs Council in the framework of the Council's rule of law dialogue. The discussion was a significant opportunity to hold a constructive yet frank exchange with Hungary. It showed that the member states stay concerned about media freedom, the functioning of the judiciary, and the Sovereignty Protection Office, and the fight against corruption in Hungary. Another hearing of Hungary is scheduled for the General Affairs Council meeting on 27 May. In preparation to this hearing, the Presidency already had contacts with the EU reporters. The Council as a whole remains committed to this procedure and will continue to play its role in the coming semesters. President, Commissioner, honourable members, before I conclude, let me recall the important contribution of civil society for the promotion and protection of EU values. It is essential in supporting the resilience of our democracies. In this context, I would like to mention that the conference that the Polish presidency is holding in Warsaw on 22–23 April, it will gather a wide range of stakeholders to debate the role of the civil society in defending the rule of law. Its main outcomes will feed into Council conclusion on democratic resilience, which we expect to approve in May. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Minister. And we move to the Commission. Commissioner McGrath.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you, Minister Szłapka, honourable members. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to address you in this chamber today on the recent legislative developments in Hungary and the need to protect fundamental rights and freedoms in the European Union. Just last week, on the 24th and 25th of March, I was in Budapest, my first visit in my capacity as Commissioner for Democracy, Justice, the Rule of Law and Consumer Protection, to engage in dialogue with representatives of the government, judicial authorities, media and civil society stakeholders. It was an opportunity for me to listen, discuss and also to gather many important impressions. My exchanges focused primarily on the follow-up to the Commission's 2024 Rule of Law recommendations and also on topical issues such as freedom of assembly, the Sovereignty Protection Office and the implementation of the SERV programme in Hungary. In my discussion with government authorities, I expressed my concerns over the most recent legislation passed by the Hungarian Parliament on the 18th of March affecting the freedom of assembly. I emphasised that fundamental rights are at the heart of the European project and that the right to gather peacefully is a fundamental right that must be guaranteed. These fundamental rights have been enshrined in the Charter of Fundamental Rights to build a union that protects and promotes human dignity, equality, tolerance and fairness, a union where there is no place for discrimination. A safe and enabling environment for civil society is important for promoting and protecting fundamental rights. In our 2024 Rule of Law report, the Commission found that obstacles affecting civil society organisations persist, and we have called on Hungary to take action to foster a safe and enabling civic space. The Commission has also acted on the new Protection of National Sovereignty Act by bringing the matter before the Court of Justice. The work of the Sovereignty Office creates a chilling effect among civil society organisations and undermines civic space in Hungary. My sense from the visit to Budapest is that civil society organisations continue to face a very difficult working environment. In my dialogue with the national authorities, I made it clear that civil society needs to be protected and deserves our support. Their work benefits the Hungarian people in their daily lives and puts EU funds to work where they are most needed. Another focus of my visit was on media freedom and pluralism. Here we concluded in our 2024 Rule of Law report that the threats to media pluralism highlighted in previous Rule of Law reports have remained unaddressed. These relate to issues such as the fairness and transparency of state advertising, the functional independence of the Media Regulatory Authority, or the governance and editorial independence of public service media. I underlined to the Hungarian authorities how crucial it is that they address the recommendations on media freedom of our 2024 Rule of Law report. Honourable Members, let me now turn to the recent Hungarian legislation related to the freedom of assembly. The principles that all our Member States voluntarily adhere to are clear. Our union is a union of freedom and equality. Everyone should be able to be who they are, live and love freely. The right to gather peacefully is a fundamental right to be championed across our European Union. It is enshrined in the Charter of Fundamental Rights of the EU and is a core element of our vibrant democracies. The recently adopted amendments to the Hungarian law on the right to assembly prohibit the organisation and participation to an assembly that violates the so-called Child Protection Act of 2021. This prohibition therefore applies to peaceful assemblies that can be qualified as promoting content portraying any deviation from the identity corresponding to one's birth sex, to name just one legal ground. The restriction on the right to peaceful assembly is not the only matter of serious concern raised by the new law. In addition, the law expands the scope of facial recognition technology to all administrative offences, including offences violating the rules on the right to assembly. We are currently conducting a thorough analysis of this new law from the perspective of EU law requirements and are closely monitoring the situation in Hungary. All this is occurring in a context in which hate-motivated harassment against LGBTIQ people is on the rise around the globe. According to the 2024 LGBTIQ survey conducted by the EU Agency for Fundamental Rights, 14% of respondents in Hungary reported being physically or sexually attacked in the 5 years preceding the survey. These attacks particularly impact trans non-binary and intersex people. Additionally, according to the same survey, 57% of LGBTIQ persons in Hungary experienced harassment in the year preceding the survey. Let me be clear. The Commission stands with the LGBTIQ community in Hungary and in all Member States of our Union. As I did in Budapest last week, allow me to recall the importance of upholding fundamental rights, including the right to freedom of expression and to peaceful assembly and association. This applies to all citizens in Europe, and that includes Hungary. This is why we have already acted decisively in relation to the Hungarian so-called Child Protection Act, which is at the basis of the qualification of the demonstrations banned by the newly adopted law. In fact, in 2021, the Commission launched an infringement against Hungary against the Child Protection Act, and the case is now pending in court. As many as 16 Member States and the European Parliament intervened in this case in support of the Commission. We are convinced that the Child Protection Act is incompatible with EU law, including the Charter of Fundamental Rights, as well as the EU values enshrined in Article 2 of the Treaty on European Union and common to all our Member States. This child protection law stigmatises LGBTIQ-related content and presents it as being detrimental to children's development. We want to be clear. The protection of all children in all their diversity is an absolute priority for the EU and for its Member States. However, the Hungarian law contains provisions which are not justified on the basis of promoting this fundamental interest or are disproportionate to achieve the stated objective. The Commission will continue to assess the overall rule of law situation in Hungary in the 2025 Rule of Law report, which is currently being prepared. And let me assure you that the rule of law related developments in Hungary have our full attention, and that includes my personal full attention. The Commission will not hesitate to take further action and, where appropriate, launch infringement procedures to ensure respect of the rule of law and fundamental rights in Hungary. I now look forward to your contributions and thank you for your attention, colleagues.
Thank you.